So this right here looks like a normal Android phone. If I power it on, it boots into Android just like any other device. But the moment I unlock it, it becomes a Linux machine, not an emulator or remote desktop. A real Linux environment running directly on the Android kernel. Now you might be wondering, if I'm inside Linux, what happens to my Android apps? They're all still here. I can open the camera, make phone calls, run third-party apps, and do everything else you'd normally expect on Android. So instead of replacing Android, Linux is simply living alongside it. And because it's running directly on the Android kernel, everything feels incredibly responsive. Apps open almost as fast as native Android apps. Even with Firefox, Wireshark, Terminal, File Manager, and several other applications running at the same time, everything stays surprisingly smooth. I've tried almost every Linux on phone project over the years. Ubuntu Touch, Postmarket OS, Mobian. They're amazing projects, but they're only available for a handful of phones. This, however, gives me the best of both worlds. I get a full Linux environment where I can install applications like VS Code, Blender, Wireshark, and almost anything available for ARM Linux. I can even run AI coding agents like Kimi, Google's Anti-Gravity, and many others. Connect a keyboard, mouse, and an external monitor, and it genuinely feels like carrying a tiny Linux PC in your pocket. So, what exactly is this? It's an app I've been building over the last few months. It sets up a complete Linux environment on almost any Android phone in just a few minutes. The project is completely open source. If you find this project useful and want to support open source work, please subscribe to the channel. But after using it for a while, I started wondering, what if Linux could become the primary operating system? So I unlocked my phone's bootloader, installed Lineage OS, rooted the device, and rebuilt my app to use a Chroot environment. So here it is. There are now two versions. The first one is the non-root version that I showed in my previous video. It creates a private Linux environment that works on almost any Android phone without requiring root. If that's all you need, it's still the version I recommend for most people. If your phone is rooted, things get much more interesting. Instead of running inside an isolated user space, the rooted version uses a Chroot environment. That means Ubuntu is mounted directly on top of the Android kernel with almost no additional overhead. Because of that, Linux gets much deeper access to your hardware. Low-level networking tools like Wireshark work properly, and many applications behave much closer to how they would on a real Linux computer. And just like the non-root version, there's no slow VNC server. The desktop is rendered through a native X11 display server with hardware acceleration, so everything stays smooth and responsive. But here's my favorite feature. You can actually set this app as your default Android launcher. That means every time you turn your phone on and unlock the screen, you're dropped straight into Linux. No Android home screen, no extra steps. Just a full Linux desktop immediately after boot. And whenever you need Android apps, they're still available from the application menu. So your phone becomes a Linux-first device without giving up Android completely. If you want to try it yourself, you'll find both versions linked in the description. If your phone isn't rooted, I highly recommend watching my previous video because everything works there without root. And if you already have a rooted device, this version unlocks the full experience. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.